For those of you who are wondering about my next TV show review, that's actually going to be the next episode. For now, we're going to be taking a look at a movie that is actually based on a cartoon. And what is the film I'm why? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles actually started out as a comic book, created by comic book artists Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. They first published it in 1984 through their company, Mirage Studios, and it was a surprise success. In 1987, Eastman and Laird licensed the characters to Playmates Toys, which developed a line of Turtles action figures. About US $1.1 billion of Turtle toys were sold between 1988 and 1992, making them the third best-selling toy figures ever at the time. And judging by the inflation of $1.1 billion right now, yeah, that's a lot. The action figures were promoted with an animated series, which premiered in 1987 and ran for almost a decade. It was a global success. Then a movie by the name of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out, and then it really became really successful, with the first movie in 1990 grossing around $202 million at the time. Judging by inflation, that's not cheap, and especially when you take into account that it was made on a $13.5 million budget. Although it did receive mixed reviews from the critics at the time, but now it has grown a following. The second movie, Secret of the Ooze, didn't do that well in terms of the box office, but it was still really good, grossing about $78.7 million on a $25 million budget. Again, that is not cheap. But then we come to this movie and yeah, this movie, despite being a modest box office success, with a $54.4 million budget against a $21 million budget, this movie did not do the franchise any favors. And then it really left a bad stain on the franchise. Until the 2003 series came out, in which that got the franchise back in order. And then we got the 2012 animated series from Nickelodeon, which proved to be almost even better than the 2003 series. And then after that, we got Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is still going strong even to this day. But where do we stand with this abomination? Well, I can comfortably say that not only is this the worst thing to come out of the franchise, but it is also the worst movie I have ever seen and will ever see. Yes, you heard that correctly. So let's go over the many horrible mistakes made with this movie. Okay, so the story at first doesn't sound that bad. The Turtles must cowabunga their way back to ancient Japan after April O'Neil, their closest friends, gets a hold of a scepter that replaces you with a person of the exact same weight in ancient Japan. And they must do so while avoiding the evil clutches of Lord Norinaga and his assistant Walker. Now, even though that's a little confusing, it doesn't actually sound that bad on paper. In fact, this was actually based on a comic book that Eastman and Laird wrote. And with the right materials and equipment, this plot could have worked, and in theory, it probably would have been the best of the three Ninja Turtle movies. This is not what happened. Oh God, how was this not in the right hands? This movie becomes a huge mess, with the story and pacing being all over the place. Okay, I do like how it does have good continuity, but the problem is that it throws in random ideas and none of them are executed well. The only thing that remotely works is the time traveling aspect, but even that feels dumb. Don't even get me started on the pacing. What's wrong with it? Well, at first, it can be so slow with how it takes minutes to go on to each scene. And then the next thing you know, it'll go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth on everything without giving you a break. And it flip-flops every time, with the faster ones becoming worse over time. And that is not a good thing. And the jokes? Oh my god, this is the worst humor I have seen in a feature-length movie. These jokes can range from cringy pop culture references, except the Addams Family one, bad wordplay, and believe it or not, there are actually some instances where they use offensive stereotypes as jokes. Oh, trust me, I am not just talking about the Japanese. You have no idea how many people this would offend just to get a cheap laugh. And I happen to be one of them. So that is a very bad sign. And you have already screwed up there. Although, as I said, there are some good things about the story. For one, the continuity is pretty good, and in theory, the concept could have worked. But everything had to go overwhelming and underwhelming to be just so awful. Now, what about the characters? Well, in a project called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, you have to get the turtles right. Did this movie do it well? Actually, yes it did. All of the turtles are in character and they stay true to their original counterparts as well as the voices match. My favorite of which has to be Donnie. Not only did he stay true to the original two films, but they even brought back Corey Feldman to voice him again. How cool is that? Also, it's fun to see Casey Jones again after he was absent from the second movie. That and his original actor comes back. Oh, what's his name again? Oh yeah, Elias Takayas. And the villain, Lord Norinaga, is actually alright. He is a very intimidating villain. Sadly, however, that's where my positivity with the characters has to end. Everything else comes crashing down. For one, Splinter appears for I think 5 minutes max. April O'Neil is just a badly written damsel in distress, plus Paige Turco could not give three craps during the making of this movie, and Walker? Ugh. Just watch.
My pleasure.
Walker, my dungeon is very crowded.
Well, then, it would only be humane not to take any more prisoners, then, wouldn't it? You just have to kill everybody.
No offense, my dude, but in this movie, you cannot act to save your life. The other characters are just utterly useless, and some of them actually contribute to the jokes that use offensive stereotypes as the punchline. Now let's talk about the visuals. Let's start off with the turtles, and what happened here? Okay, so in the first two movies, these turtles were done by Jim Henson's Creature Shop, who also made the Splinter puppet. In this movie, however, not only the turtles were done by a completely different company, but now they look horrendous and their mouth area looks like bird beaks. Yeah, they look like birds now. Green birds at that. And Splinter?
Oh, Jesus! Oh, God! Oh, Jesus! God! Oh, Mary, Mother of Jesus! Jesus of Nazareth!
Yeah, and his voice does not fit the character at all. But where this movie truly shines is with the set designs. For one thing, the sewer layer of the turtles does look true to the first two movies, even though it's admittedly that train station from the second movie, but whatever. And ancient Japan, it looks glorious. It looks just like the real thing. And as much as I gave crap to the turtles' costumes, I will admit, the other costumes are actually pretty good, especially the turtles' samurai costumes. Those are amazing. As for the acting, I've already kind of mentioned it with the characters, so let's just skip to the rating I'd give this movie. That's right, a 1.5 out of 10 stars, barely managing to get the first ever Ren Hoek seal of dumpster fire, which, in case you are not aware, is the exact opposite of the Magellan the Dragon and Kui seal of approval, in that this is given to the worst examples of writing, characters, visuals, and an overall pleasant experience. And that's everything I have to say about this movie. This movie just ruined the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles so horribly. At least the next show I'll be reviewing won't be as bad. Which, by the way, if you have your own suggestions on what I could review for this show, please leave it in the comments below and I may consider it. But it has to be related to the small screen. If it's exclusive to the big screen, I won't review it, sadly. So, what is the next show I'm going to review? Well, we're going to switch up plans, where instead of reviewing the TV show, I will instead discuss about how I could fix it. In case you're wondering what I'm talking about, I said it was the British counterpart to Caillou. Need another clue? Well, if you remember the Old MacDonald Had a Farm song, which animal was listed second?